Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the CML Statehouse Report. I'm Megan Dollar, CML's Legislative Advocacy Manager. Let me go ahead and get us started on this week's report. The first bill I want to talk about is Senate Bill 197. This has to do with workers' compensation and physician's choice within workers' compensation. CML is currently opposed to this legislation because as written and specifically as amended on third reading in the Senate, where it recently passed, it allows an individual employee to doctor shop up until they go right before they go back to work. We've got some concerns with that. It will slow the process down. It will slow the ability for employees to get back to work. And the process currently is working just fine. And so from our perspective, there doesn't need to be any change. Additionally, we would like to see some language in the bill that requires a level 2 physician to at least have referred an employee before they utilize a level 1 doctor. And that's something that we are very concerned about specifically so we can maintain quality of care for workers' compensation eligible participants and employees. That bill, like I mentioned, passed out of the Senate yesterday on third reading, last Wednesday on third reading, and is headed to the House. We are hopeful that we will see some significant amendments in the House in order to address our concerns, but so far they have not been addressed. The next bill I want to talk about is the Power Act, also known as Senate Bill 176, which has to do with workplace discrimination and harassment. CML is currently opposed to the legislation. Certainly, we recognize that no workplaces should involve discrimination nor harassment. However, there were certainly introduced some problematic pieces in the bill, and the bill was actually heard again in the Senate Judiciary last week, where a strike below amendment was actually, so the bill was rewritten and then amended that way, which has a lot of improvements in the bill, specifically around independent contractors. As introduced, all independent contractors were covered by the bill and were provided eligibility to make complaints and sue. And we had some real concerns with that and joined many folks in the local government and business community as well. With the strike below, it is a much better bill. However, there are still some outstanding concerns on what should encompass, or what a definition of hostile work environment should encompass, and some other specific things that we would like to see, specifically around the affirmative defense piece. There is language in the bill as amended that says that an employer gets a affirmative defense if they take certain actions to address workplace harassment. We find those terms to be on the vague side, and so we'd like to pursue further amendments. At this point, CML is still opposed, but we are open to further discussions on this. So that's my report for this week. I'll go ahead and kick it to the next lobbyist.
Hi, everyone. This is Heather Stauffer. Today, I'm going to be talking about two bills. The first bill I want to talk about is Senate Bill 166, Colorado Fire Commission recommendations. This bill implements several recommendations made by the Colorado Fire Commission by creating the Colorado Coordinated Regional Mutual Aid System in the Division of Fire Prevention and Control in the Department of Public Safety. The CCRMAS will work towards improving Colorado's coordinated response with emergency responders to emergency situations and incidences, which will help local governments by encouraging coordinated response between state and locals during large-scale emergency events like the wildfires we saw last summer. So CML lobbied in support of this bill, and Chief Watkins from Grand Junction testified on CML's behalf in support of the bill in the House Energy and Environment Committee. That bill passed on a vote of 12-0. The second bill I want to talk about is Senate Bill 250, Elections and Voting. This bill makes a lot of changes to the Title I election statutes, which affect county and state elections. There's also a very small section of the bill that addresses technical changes to Title 31 election statutes, which impact municipalities. These changes have to do with recall elections and cleanups to the statute, which CML supports. Karen Goldman from the Municipal Clerks Association testified in support of those Title 31 changes this week in the Senate State Affairs Committee. That bill passed out of committee on a vote of 3-2. And that's it for me this week. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Bill Clarine here, and today I will provide you all with updates on 3 bills. The first bill is on House Bill 1168, which creates a pilot program that supports local governments in diversifying their procurement practices. This bill passed the House last week and was heard in the Senate Finance Committee. It passed that committee and will be heard on second reading in the Senate soon. CML's strike bill amendment has stayed on throughout this process, and we will continue to support this bill as amended. Next, I want to let you know about House Bill 1301, which was just introduced and concerns cannabis cultivation measures and permits contingency plans to reduce crop loss based on adverse weather. CML is advocating for local governments to have approval authority in reviewing these adverse weather plans. We have been working with the proponents on this amendment, and I will continue to keep you all updated on this bill. Lastly, I wanted to provide an update on Senate Bill 148, which creates the Office of Financial Empowerment. CML is supportive of this bill, and this past week, it passed second and third reading in the Senate. It is now in the House and will be heard in the House State, Civic, Military, and Veteran Affairs Committee. That concludes my updates for this week. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan McKillop, a legislative and policy advocate with CML. Here are some things I'm working on at the State House. First, on Thursday, May 6th, CML testified before the House Energy and Environment Committee in a neutral position on House Bill 1286, which establishes energy benchmarking and performance requirements for buildings throughout the state over 50,000 square feet, with some exceptions for agricultural, manufacturing, industrial, or historic buildings. CML, together with our partners in local government, have worked with the bill sponsors and proponents to exempt local government buildings from annual fees and civil penalties if they do not fulfill the requirements of the benchmarking program outlined in the bill. The bill also prevents the Air Quality Control Commission from modifying these exemptions in the future. The Energy and Environment Committee passed several amendments to the bill. Most notably, they passed an amendment that would further protect local governments. CML appreciates all of the outreach from the bill sponsors and proponents in the development of this legislation. This Tuesday, CML will testify in support of Senate Bill 261, which removes most of the existing limitations on the size of distributed generation facilities. Current law limits the size of a renewable energy system allowed on a customer's premise to no more than 120% of the total customer energy usage of the building. This bill would remove that requirement entirely, allowing customers to qualify for renewable energy credits if they install renewable energy systems. The bill also expands on an existing exemption in order to allow people to more easily share energy that is generated on their property between buildings. This would benefit owners of multi-tenant properties and encourage those owners to use renewable energy. Finally, CML will testify in support of Senate Bill 260, which is the long-awaited transportation funding bill. The bill is being sponsored by Majority Leader Fenberg and Senator Winter, as well as House Speaker Garnett and Representative Gray. The bill proposes a package of fees, dedicated general fund dollars, and stimulus funds that will help address the backlog of infrastructure maintenance across the state. The bill will also provide funding for electric vehicle infrastructure and multimodal projects that will address climate change concerns. The bill will generate more than $5 billion in new transportation revenue over the next 10 years, including nearly $1 billion in additional highway users tax fund revenue for local governments. Senate Bill 260 will provide millions of dollars in new revenue directly to local governments, provide local governments more flexibility when completing multimodal projects, and will keep local governments' share of historic revenue whole. CML enthusiastically supports this landmark piece of legislation that finally creates an equitable statewide solution for Colorado's transportation woes. That's all for me. Please reach out with any questions about these bills or any other piece of legislation. Thanks.
Thank you so much for watching this week. As always, we welcome your input and any questions that you may have, and we'll look forward to speaking with you next week. Have a great one.